Hey, Six Figure Writers, here with a training with Alex Horvath, who is going to talk about Facebook compliance. I'm super excited to share this. Even though I personally really hate compliance, it's a necessary evil in today's world with writing for Facebook and Google and YouTube. And Facebook tends to be one of the more strict ones. So I figured it would be nice for the group to have somebody who, looks at this stuff every day, getting their input and knows where Facebook is heading, and also some other things here and there that maybe even some common Facebook ad users don't even know yet. So Alex, thanks for joining. I appreciate it. The group appreciates it. And if you want to get started, love to have you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, thanks so much for having me. And yeah, Facebook is an interesting beast, and I've personally gone through at least 5 banned accounts and 2 banned business managers. So lots of Facebook compliance troubles for me in the past. Having learning, there's definitely a sort of like a learning curve, and Facebook is certainly its own beast when it comes to writing copy and compliance. And so kind of to, I guess, get started, I think the one thing that I like to talk about with people when it comes to Facebook compliance is understanding the platform itself and understanding what Facebook wants. And I guess sort of like Facebook's ecosystem. And Facebook, it has sort of like, there's 2 pieces to the puzzle, or 2 major pieces to the Facebook puzzle. And that's going to be user experience and then advertising, because that's how Facebook makes its money, right? And every business, they're in business to make money. And so Facebook is always playing this sort of like balancing act between keeping users happy and getting advertisers on the platform. And lately, for the most part, they care more about their users and their advertisers, because demand for advertising on Facebook is increasing dramatically. So like 12 months ago, costs were about half of what they are today. And Facebook advertising costs are expected to double again in the next few months, is what people are saying. We'll see what happens. So with that in mind, what I always like to come back to is, since Facebook cares about their users so much, that's sort of the compass that we, as copywriters, as marketers, as people looking to leverage these platforms, that's what we have to keep in mind. And so the biggest thing, and a good friend of mine who runs tons of Facebook ads, owns a really large agency, says is, respect the non-selling environment on Facebook. So understanding that Facebook is a social platform is extremely key to being successful on the platform as a copywriter, as a marketer. That'll also help you keep your ad accounts from getting banned. They don't want you to sell on the platform because it feels foreign to the platform itself. So with that said, I have a pretty good example that Jared and I were looking at the other day, and it's actually a Mike Shreve ad. Can you see my screen still? Just want to make sure.
Yeah, I can. I guess I've muted everybody else. So, John, give me a head
Awesome.
nod. Yeah. Okay. So, we can still see your screen.
Okay. Perfect. So, the other thing too, that there's a few things I like about this ad, but the first thing is that it's not salesy at all. It's more dialogue oriented. So there's a few factors when we're talking about like going back to user experience and what Facebook wants. They want their users to be happy, and that's always going to be first in their mind. So they're cracking down even more on like products and making sure your customer service is good and all those things. Like if you're an advertiser, because at the end of the day, right, if a customer clicks on your ad and they go through your funnel and your process and they're unhappy, well, more than likely, a lot of times they go back to Facebook because they say, well, Facebook, you showed me this ad, et cetera, and et cetera. So Mike Shreve's ad here is a great example of a few things that Facebook really likes to see. The first of which is sort of like painting the picture of the experience that users will have, or, you know, what you're going to be disclosing what you're going to be delivering to people. And that's extremely important when you're writing Facebook ads. And it also sort of will boost conversions in a way that you probably wouldn't expect, is because it weeds out the people that you may not want. And so, like, right away we can tell that, you know, in the very beginning, that this is for people who would be a writer looking for clients. And then he talks about how he acquires clients, and he sort of slips something interesting in here that we could probably discuss for a minute or two in step 3 here, that I was talking to Jared about, and I absolutely love it. And I'll just read it really quick. And it says, "I'll have a quick chat with the prospect, in parentheses, often while wearing Star Wars pajama bottoms, and we'll close a monthly retainer contract." So a lot of what I've seen with a lot of copywriters when they write, you know, a Facebook ad, is instead of saying something like this, you know, this is a benefit-driven step here with often while wearing Star Wars pajama bottoms, like, you know, you can work from home doing this, or you can acquire customers from anywhere in the world. And Facebook actually really doesn't like that. And I will go through some of their advertising policies here in a few minutes. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that this sort of little statement gives the reader the same net impression as, like, okay, you know, if you use my process, you stand to be able to, you know, write from home. You know, you can have a job from home. You can do this from home. You can do it from anywhere. You can be comfortable. You can, you know, that's sort of the impression that it creates, but it doesn't use a lot of the things that Facebook wouldn't necessarily like to see, which we can talk about a little bit more in the call. So yeah, those, I think really, again, just to like rewind like a little bit, one of the biggest thing is just respecting the non-sales environment, which feels a little bit counterintuitive for sure. So, and I guess now what I can do really quick is, what I'd like to do is just keep this like a very open discussion. So I'm not just like talking on things that you guys may not have questions about. So I'm going to go through the questions that were submitted, and then maybe we can just, Jared, if you're cool with it, we can open the floor and create a sort of discussion around, you know, compliance, the experiences that I've had. And then that way, you know, I can be answering questions that people actually will have.
Yeah, so the one thing that I would like you to talk about just before we get any questions, because I'm sure it will bring up questions, is talking about what's written and what's unwritten with Facebook.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because it's very important. In, you know, looking at this Mike Shreve ad, you don't see the word, you know, what's the big word that we're always chastised about in writing Facebook ads, which Alex will talk about here in a second. But when it comes to Facebook, there's going to be written advertising policies, and then there's going to be unwritten advertising policies, which makes this whole game even worse because it's going a lot off of feeling. But if you're going to write for Facebook, you have to play their game. That's the nature of the beast. So with that, could you talk about that real quick before we open up the floor? Yeah,
absolutely. So what Jared's talking about between written policy and unwritten policy is Facebook is, I guess, sort of to give you guys a little bit more context on how the network works and how compliance works, is generally when you write an ad, it gets scanned by a bot. There are certain triggers that the bots pick up on, and then it'll get flagged and usually not approved by the bot. You can appeal it, which will push it over to a person, and then that person can decide yay or nay. And those people usually aren't super qualified people. So, you know, that's a little bit of a rabbit trail, but that's sort of how it works. And you can use that to understand, okay, so, you know, there are definitely things in the advertising policies that I don't want to write in my copy because a bot will pick it up and then it'll get disapproved immediately. But as far as unwritten policy versus written policy, is Facebook's constantly sort of changing their rules. So you could get away with a lot more a year ago, and we were getting away with a lot more a year ago, especially in the space that I spend a lot of time in, than you can today. And their advertising policies haven't really changed at all. And so it's kind of hard for me to give like a very clear answer. But what I always say with this is sort of like two things. Is, first, again, going back to Facebook cares more about their users than they care about your business, especially if you're not like a Coca-Cola or, like one of those billion-dollar giant companies. And then the second thing is that they also don't want their users to know that advertisers have information about them. And that'll kind of segue into this here a little bit, which I think this is probably where I see most people get tripped up the most, is this advertising policy about personal attributes, just in general. And the trigger word that Jared was talking about is this word right here, which is you. And that doesn't mean you can't use the word you. It's just you can't use the word you when you're assuming anything about an individual. And you can see here in these examples with personal attributes, the differences. So here's what you are allowed to say: meet Hispanic men online now, versus here's what you're not allowed to say: meet other black singles near, quote unquote, you. And so what the assumption here is, singles and near you location. So we can't assume like, it's rough. You can't assume like state of mind. You can't assume, any sort of preferences. You can't assume that there's a lot of things that you sort of can assume. So Jared, I don't know if that sort of cleared up what you wanted to talk about there. But the thing that I always use as my compass is, okay, is this going to raise the radar from a user perspective on the fact that, I may know things about them that they don't know that I know about them? And also, am I assuming anything about the user in this copy?
So that was, in that like meet other black singles near you, it's if you're a person being targeted by something like that, well, you assume that the advertiser knows that you're single and they know that you're black. And that's really what Facebook doesn't want, is they don't want people to feel like they're being targeted. So I'll use an example of something that Alex and I actually worked on just about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, which was a credit repair ad, a credit repair funnel. And the tricky part about writing for credit repair on Facebook is that you can't call out people who have bad credit, because then they know that the advertiser, that we knew that they have bad credit. So it made it really tricky. Well, how do you target people with bad credit without them knowing that you know that they have bad credit? So the way that we got around it was finding a statistic about how many people, it's 1 in 5 people, actually have misinformation on their credit reports. So that's not assuming anything about somebody. It's just saying, here's a fact: 1 in 5 people have misinformation on their credit reports. It was a longer format. I'd say it was probably like 500-600 words. And the call to action was essentially, go here and book a time to speak to a credit professional to make sure that you're in the clear, make sure that you don't have this misinformation on your credit report. So when you think about it, people with high credit scores, 750, 800, they're probably not worried about having misinformation on their credit report, because they would assume that they don't. But people who have, on the lower side credit scores, they may think like, oh, well, that's why my score is so low. That's definitely the problem. So they'll click through. So even though we're targeting those people with lower credit scores, we're not revealing the fact that we know that they have lower credit scores. So if that contextualizes it a little bit more for everybody.
And the other thing that I'd sort of like add to that is the example that would not fly would be like, hey, I mean, just to put it really simply and not like super sexy, is like, hey, is your credit score suffering? that would very likely be I always have a hard time saying for sure that things are uncompliant, because sometimes it works and sometimes it isn't. But in my experience, I always like to err on the side of caution, because it's way harder to get an ad account back than it is to, you don't want to swim upstream, right? You want to make sure that you're doing things the way that Facebook wants you to. And they don't want users to know that advertisers have information about them that they don't. And the reason why is because I'm sure all of you guys have heard about all of the scrutiny that they've been put under because of all the data breaches and everything like that, So yeah, so that's a big thing. And one thing too that sort of helps with this is if you can create dialogue and storytelling, or just talk about exactly what you do, sort of like what Mike Shreve does here, then you're never really assuming anything about anyone. You're not really calling out anything, because he's saying, here's how I get writing clients, and he's walking through how he does that. He's instilling beliefs and also making, it's very benefit driven. So, that's why it works, and that's why this is compliant.
And you can see, he even has the word "you" in it down in this other paragraph, but it's not assuming anything about them. It's saying if you want to use the same exact client getting templates I do, then all you have to do is hop, skip, jump, yada, yada, call to action. So that's one of the big things is you won't find anything in the Facebook ad policies that say explicitly don't use the word "you," but it's one of the biggest things right now that's triggering people getting their ads canned. And then also income statements. If you want to say something about that real quick.
I do, yeah. So in their advertising policies, and I don't know if I can pull it up right now, but they have one big one that a lot of people run into. And this will kind of lead me into another thing that I talk about with our copywriters and a lot of other people as well is, I'm not sure if I can find it, and I don't really want to, spend a ton of time looking for it. But anyway, Facebook explicitly does not want you to use timeframes ever for really anything at all. They don't want people to expect that they can accomplish anything. Let's just say we can go back to credit repair and use that as an example. But in any sort of, credit repair ad, we don't want to say help you get your credit back on track in the next 45 days. They don't want people to have those expectations, because when the user doesn't meet those, when they don't meet those expectations, then they get upset, angry, etc. So timeframes are never a thing. One unwritten rule right now that is currently causing lots of issues is any sort of income claim. Whatsoever. Facebook has outright said that they do not like it, and this is coming directly from higher level agency representatives in the compliance department. And there is a lot of talk that they're trying to get all of the sort of very direct response, business opportunity, money making type people off the network as the bigger fish start moving more and more marketing spend over to Facebook/Instagram. So yeah, I think that's sort of the big thing on income for sure is I would always err away from doing it, because they're going to put you in this bucket if they see a dollar sign anywhere. They say it must be fully described in the associate product and business model, and you can do all of that. But you may open yourself up to ad disapprovals. And another unwritten thing about ad disapprovals is they do ding your account. So if you're starting like a new Facebook account, you always want to be squeaky clean every single time for the first while until you are spending a little more, and then you can get a little more aggressive. But I always say, you always want to stay compliant for sure, no matter what. But I guess if you're going, you always want to play it way safer at the beginning, because as soon as you get an ad disapproval, that they sort of there's an invisible flag on the account, and then they're more aggressive to review ads. And then of course, as you get more disapprovals, you go higher up on the list where they're cutting accounts. And And another thing to understand, and I'm going into, it's not really a rabbit hole because I think context is super important, is Facebook doesn't need any new advertisers. And I don't know if you guys have heard this phrase, but it's basically like they're at max ad load. So what that means is there's no more inventory. And by inventory, I mean there's no more available slots for them to put your ad. So now everybody's just bidding against each other, for real estate on Facebook pages and on Instagram. So they don't need you on their network. So as time goes on, they're going to need less and less people. So they're going to get stricter on compliance, and they're just going to ban first and ask questions later. And that's kind of, that's the harsh reality behind it.
Or ban and not ask any questions.
Yeah, exactly. They just ban you and they say, sorry, and then it's not a fun time. Getting banned is not a fun time. And I can tell you, Jared, if you're cool with it, that kind of is like a perfect segue into this question. What's the best plan of action if your ad account gets suspended?
Yeah, absolutely.
So to answer this question specifically, get a new ad account. I've heard of people fighting to get their ad account back, and they've gotten it back and all that stuff. And that's fine and dandy. But in my experience, going through Facebook support has never been helpful. And I've done it at least a dozen times. Even escalated it to higher level reps, escalated it again, said, hey, we made these changes. We don't know why, we're getting banned, blah, blah, blah. I actually took a course. I don't even remember who it was from, but he said, don't take no for an answer. And it was kind of like a never ending battle. So if you can get a new ad account, then definitely get a new ad account. Because also the other thing too is like once it's been banned, and usually it's always sort of like dinged, it's got that like blemish on it. So costs are higher, all that fun stuff. So yeah, to answer that question, get a new ad account. If you've had like all 4 of your business managers banned, which is a really rough spot to be in, beg somebody to let you create a business manager on their account, and be more compliant with your copy if you can. So
yeah, I guess like when it really comes down to it, Facebook doesn't care about you as an advertiser unless you're dropping tons and tons and tons of money on them. Like as a single ad runner, they probably would never even get on the phone with you or email you. They don't care. They don't care at all.
Yep.
And that's not to, none of this is to say like, oh, you shouldn't focus on running Facebook ads. You shouldn't try running them for yourself. You shouldn't, run them for clients and things like that. None of this is to say that. Really the point is to just give you this knowledge so that you can go in and be the person that can write compliant Facebook ads, because a lot of other copywriters out there will get their clients banned because they are not able to write Facebook compliant ads. So that makes you more money.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, Jared, you'll know this, but like a lot of marketers and companies are desperate to find people who can write good, converting, compliant Facebook ad copy in the direct response space. So if you can master that, then you're setting yourself apart in a space where there's like huge need, just in general, So
yeah. And
I
honestly,
think.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think that could be like a huge win if you're just like the Facebook copywriter. Because the thing about Facebook too is that it's such an interesting platform because it actually works really well. And it's outside of compliance, it's one of the easier platforms to do well on for whatever reason, So it's
because
definitely.
They have their targeting on lock.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really, really robust platform. It's super awesome. The experience in creating ads is very, it's great. It's an awesome platform to to use just in general. So yeah, all of this is to give you context so you can succeed on the compliance side, not to discourage you from doing Facebook ads, you know. And if you do get an ad account banned, you know, figure out where you made your mistake and then learn from it and don't do it again, you know. And yeah, so I think that's another big thing too.
I'm going to open up, I'm going to unmute everybody. And John, I saw that you had a question, so.
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Alex, you said if all 4 of your business manager accounts get banned, is that how does that work? How does that work? Is that how many you can get through?
Yeah. So I believe every person can create 4 different business managers, which I think gives you like 5 ad accounts or something. So if you burn through all of that, which means I think you have to go through quite a few ad accounts, you'll have to ask somebody else.
Okay.
And I know people who have done that. So I am not one of those people, but I know people who have. So yeah.
I've had one personal account banned. Yeah, and then I set up another, but I didn't. Then someone told me set up a business manager, and you can have like multiple accounts through that business manager. But
Yep.
I didn't realize you could set up multiple business Is that what you meant? You could set up literally multiple business managers within one account.
Yes,
or just...
you should be able to. Yes.
Huh. Okay, that's good to know. Because no doubt I'll be getting more banned in the future. So.
Why do you think that is?
Oh,
I got one
I'm
band,
just curious.
and obviously they didn't. I got one band, and they wouldn't tell me why, and it was a personal account, so it just completely wiped out my personal account, and I hadn't set up a business manager, so I had no kind of fallback on it, so I had to set up another Facebook account, and then my fiance has an ad account where I'm an admin in her ad account or some.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah. So, but I figure if it happens once. I've managed to get an Amazon account banned, a Facebook account banned, and a Google Ads account banned. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to be getting more banned in the future.
well, just walk the fine line then, I guess. Leslie, Loveland, Aaron, Jennifer, any of you have any questions before we move into just the pre-asked questions?
I'm good.
I don't have any questions.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
then-
good. I had a pre-asked question, so it's on the list already.
Perfect. Well, then I'll just start from top to bottom. So John's question is, my client's a coach that teaches guys how to pick up women. Can I even advertise a service like that on Facebook? Getting heavy, like breathing or
Yeah,
something.
can people view?
Is that okay? Seems to be gone. Client's a coach that teaches guys how to pick up women. Can I even advertise a service like that on Facebook? If yes, what are the do's and don'ts for what I can say and can't say, and the kinds of claims I can and can't make?
I wouldn't run that on Facebook. I would not touch Facebook with that. Okay. Now, could you figure out a way to do it? You probably could, but that's not, let me just see here. I don't know, I don't have any experience in that area, John. So I don't feel qualified to let you know, I do know that that's, personally, I would not. Personally, I would not do that.
My suggestion would be if you can find pages that are centered around PUA, and see if they're running ads, and see, is there a lot of is there actual, what's the word I'm looking for? Like likes and shares and things like that. The more involved that people have gotten with them, probably the longer they've been running. And he's going to pull up AdSpy right now for that. So
this is a really good resource.
I would try and dig into
By the way.
that, because then you'll start getting served ads for
Okay.
for those similar things.
Yep.
Because you used to
And
be
then you
able
can
to,
sort of see.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
You used to be able to see ads on the page. They changed that though, right? Where you could go to a page and then go on the left hand menu and select ads or whatever it was.
Yeah. So if there's two ways to do it now. So I'll show you both just so you guys know how to do it. So if you're on somebody's page here, I just use Dean Graziosi because you go down to, I believe it's page transparency. You can click see more. It's going to pull up this little window for you here. It's going to show you ads from this page. This page is ad run, it tells you all that. And then you can click view in ad library. And then from there, sorry, my connection's a little bit slow. And it's still taking forever. It's going to show you all the ads that he has currently running. Now, one thing that I will say is I would always pay attention to the date, like when it started running. Because the reason I say this is because just because you see an ad running does not mean it's compliant. And what I mean by that is, like, I've personally run ads for 2 or 3 months, and they were arguably uncompliant, and then the account got banned. So and I see this a lot with the copywriters that I work with, and one thing that we talk about a lot is just because you see an ad running doesn't mean it's compliant. So you want to look like, okay, has this ad been running a long time? Does it have a lot of engagement? Is it, all of that things, like, check off some boxes to check the legitimacy of the compliance if you're doing swiping, if you're swiping. So that's one thing that I always sort of say, and I wouldn't say, if it's been running for like 2 or 3 days, I wouldn't say that that's in the safe zone. And one spot I like to use for that is AdSpy. To be honest, I don't remember how much AdSpy is, but if you're doing a lot of Facebook copywriting, it's really good for swiping. It lets you see the actual post as well, so, I mean, I'm not super interested in the penny order, but, and their ads, but if you wanted to be able to see everything about the ad, like, you wanted to be able to look through your comments, you wanted to look, AdSpy also tell you how long it's been running. It says created on June 6th. That's probably not accurate, but usually this is accurate. And the reason why I say it's probably not accurate on the creation date is because you don't get this kind of engagement in, less than 24 hours usually.
Oh my gosh, engagement was the word I was looking for like 3 minutes ago. Sorry,
Yeah,
it was just killing me.
So if I'm looking for like a compliant swipe, I kind of have like a few things that I look for is, and the biggest one is like, how long has this ad been running? And then I check the engagement, and I kind of have in my head, and this is just because I've done, like we've spent like $1 million on Facebook ads this year. I have an idea of, okay, how much spend have they pumped into this ad based on the engagement, and this would be, this one's a lot. This is they've put a lot of money into this ad or post right here. And so I use that to determine like, okay, this is or is not a compliant ad. If it, was rolled out 2 weeks ago, doesn't have a lot of proof on it, then it may or may not be compliant. And I kind of use that to understand that. But yeah, I highly recommend AdSpy. If it's if you're doing a lot of Facebook copywriting. So, oh yeah, and I was going to show you the other way. The other way to look for ads on pages is just to go to, like, if you just Google Facebook ad library. And then it'll be the first thing that you click on. And when you navigate here, you just search by,
Type in, what's his name? Type in Michael Fiore, Fiore.
guy?
Yeah. So this is in the, like, kind of PUA. It's in the relationship space. So you can see there.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, for everybody's information, Michael Fiore is a pen name for a really, really successful copywriter named Chris Haddad. His nickname is actually Chris Moneyfingers Haddad. He was a David Garfinkel mentee and ended up making tremendous amount of money doing copy for other people, and then started his own company and his own products. So if you want to, John, if you want to like look at these ads and kind of go through these funnels and see what he's doing, that might help you.
Right. Do you think that's?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the same, right? Really, kind of.
Yeah, I think that you just have to. Again, you just have to be very careful with the words that you're using.
Yeah. I would definitely like not be sexual at all, you know, and you can see that in these ads. You know, you want to like,
and there
dive
is
into
one
more
other
things like this.
There is one other component that I feel needs to be mentioned, is that Facebook does send their bots not just on the YouTube ad, but the landing page as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
your
they send it to the lander.
has to be compliant along the same exact lines as your Facebook ad does.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
just something to keep in mind,
Yeah.
that if your ad could be squeaky clean, but if your Facebook ad or if your landing page is not, the ad will be disapproved.
Yep. So that's definitely something, and all of the policies are the same for both. And word on the street is as well, and this is just so you guys know what's sort of coming and is in action now, is Facebook's crawling deeper and deeper. So it used to be like, you know, if you had like, see if it'll let me, yeah. So I'm using a trackpad, and I'm also not very good at drawing, but let me just draw 3 pages here really quick, just for illustration. But let's just say this page is your lander. You know, Facebook would only crawl here, the lander. Now, word on the street is they're starting to crawl here and
Which
even
would be
here
like
as
your
well.
order page, or an upsell,
So,
or even an upsell. Yeah.
Yep. I can tell you that we're getting away with plenty after the lander still, but that may change very quickly. So just food for thought for everybody, you know, so you can go into it eyes wide open.
For everybody's reference, we work in the biz ops space, so that's why he's talking about that we get away with a lot after that first landing page.
Yeah. So, yeah, lander
Cool.
squeaky clean. Yeah, for sure, every time.
John,
And one thing too, by the way, that'll get you banned immediately is privacy policy and what the heck is the other one? Privacy policies. Yes, terms and privacy policy. Those are a must-have and an immediate ban. And likely your whole business manager gets banned if you don't have it. And you also want to make sure that whatever business page profile you're running it from has the privacy policy. There's a section in the about where you link the privacy policy, that you put the link to your privacy policy in the about section of your page as well. That is something that's like a little tip and trick for you guys too.
Cool. John, I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Aaron, this isn't necessarily regarding compliance, but I'd like to know about algorithms and how the performance of different target audiences work. You get different choices of who to target, which is best. Also, what is helpful or hindering as far as algorithms go?
Man, so this is like, we could do a 2-hour session on the algorithm.
Aaron, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions as we're going through this if you'd like to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can
Absolutely.
hey.
Do you have any more specific things? Because I could like rant for a while about the algorithm.
Because I'm just sort of like completely green. I don't really know. The source of that question came from me using my I'm a musician, and when I released a new single, I did an ad, and there were different choices, and I thought choosing something like to send one of the choices that I made was within my audience, and like nobody saw it. It was like nobody saw my ad, and I'm like, what is the point of this? So I guess that's, because I know nothing, I couldn't make a very specific question. So
Okay.
I guess I know that there's like target by region, target by but I had like limited options because of the type of ad I was running. So
were you boosting a post?
It could have been a post boost. I think so.
Okay.
It's been a while now, and it's not something I've been pursuing, but that's the reason why I'm on this call now, because I'm going to start promoting myself as well as want to offer it for, clients. And so.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So boosting a post it does sort of like, I wish I had like a dummy account that I could load up for you guys. And I could walk through all of that, and maybe we can set up another time to do something like that for you. But I don't recommend boosting a post, and the reason is because it limits, for whatever reason, and I don't really know why Facebook does this, but it doesn't give you all of the options. But to dive a little bit more into the algorithm itself, is Facebook has a really, really, really good understanding of what its users do. And that's just simply because it has so many data points that it's gathering every single day on everything that you do. So for instance, just to give you an example for how powerful it is and how it judges ads and everything, and I'm cool with showing you guys my personal page here a little bit. It picks up on when I hover over certain things, when I click certain things, my dwell time. So if I sit here and I dwell on this ad, it's going to contribute to the algorithm, telling the algorithm that this video is at least somewhat engaging because I sat here for a certain amount of time. So it scores it based on how long I sit here, what I do, if I click unmute, if I click see more. Each of those sort of like add up to feed into the algorithm. And so on Facebook, you can pick like a few different sort of like outcomes. You have like click outcome, you have engagement you can go for, you have conversions from a pixel that you can go for. And so I guess, and so Facebook, because of all the data points that it has on everyone, including me, it knows my habits, what I do, So very likely, like what I can say is from what I know about the platform here, is Facebook knows that I'm not a purchase guy. Like I've never purchased anything a single time on Facebook. So it's very unlikely that I'm going to see ads that are looking for conversions of any kind. And that's because it knows my behavior, just in general. That's not always the case, but, I don't know, the AI is a little insane because it just knows what people do, So I engage a lot, so it's very likely, that it knows that I engage a lot. So this is probably, it's likely that the outcome of this is for engagement, that he's running at least on this particular ad that I'm seeing. I don't know if that clears anything up for you. I would say if your ad wasn't serving, if you weren't getting impressions, you said you used a custom audience, is that correct?
Well, it may have been a post boost, and maybe that's the reason why it didn't perform well, because I did have limited options. You had 5 different options of who to target, and rather than just going out cold by region, I tried to at least go with like the warm people, like people who would know who I am that are in my region or something, friends of friends or something. I can't remember exactly what I had chosen, but it got like 7 clicks, and I have a network of like 800 people, and I know everyone I know has at least 1,000 or 2,000 network as well. And I'm like, what is going on? So at the very least, I know that I need to just go in and do an actual like ad, and then it's going to be a completely kind of different landscape, I think. So.
And from what I've heard,
absolutely it will.
Alex can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've heard, you don't need to worry about targeting so like narrowly, because Facebook's algorithm is so good that you can kind of leave targeting open more, and it will learn who to target as time goes on really, really well.
Okay.
Yeah. And that there is certainly like a lot of truth to that. The thing about that's interesting is the algorithm seems to sort of change a lot. So like, you know, last month or 2 months ago, like lookalike audiences, everybody's like, oh my gosh, lookalike audiences are the best thing ever. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically like I can take a list, a customer list, or I can take an engagement list. So like this guy Wilco here could be like, okay, you know, I want all the people in the last 30 days who engaged with this ad. I want to create an audience that looks like, that has certain, that looks like that the person that either engaged with this ad or bought from me, or, you know, the list goes on and on. You can put the data in almost from anywhere to create an audience like that. So what I'm saying with all of that is like, that's kind of like changing. So you sort of have to feel it out. But from the algorithm side, the more data you feed it, the stronger it gets. So if let's say your goal, whatever your goal is, whatever your highest levered goal is, and maybe it's an email list for you, you know, you want to feed the algorithm those people, right? So you want to focus on, you know, getting email opt-ins and getting those conversions and feeding the Facebook algorithm those people. And over time, the more of those that you get, the smarter it gets and the lower your cost is, because it starts finding the pockets of people that fit in that realm. So. Okay.
So what about when running ads from the page, because I just started a Facebook page for my business, for my copywriting business. And I also am going to kind of branch out. I'm creating a course as well. And I am going to be building an email opt-in list. So it's basic. And I have like I have 2 likes on my, do likes matter? And should I just start running ads on, you know, just to kind of get people to visit it? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So what I would do,
like, what do I,
Yeah. So I have a little bit of advice for you here. I really, I wouldn't run a page like campaign. That is a campaign. I wouldn't run that because and here's my thinking behind it is it will give you page likes, you know, and a good page like cost is probably like 50 cents, between 50 and 70 cents per page like, you know, but you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and you can get a better engaged page like audience, because what you can do, and I wish I could show you, but like if I were this guy, what I can do is I can click in here if it's my page, and then I can go down and I can look at all the people that liked the page or liked this post, and I can invite them to like my page. So then what you're doing is you're funneling in people to like your page that engaged with your content. And then when you ask them to like your page, they said, yeah, I'll like your page, you know, and that's a whole lot better than the person that's like scrolling through Facebook. They see this post here and it's just like, oh, there's a button here to click like page. Yeah, I like this post. You know what I mean? And so to also answer your question about whether page likes matter, the answer is absolutely yes. They do matter. All of it matters. So it all matters, and it's starting to matter more and more on the page side. You know, so fill everything out that you can in the about section. You know, start accruing real likes. You know, and everyone out there wants to offer you like a quick way to crush it. I mean, in my experience, that's snake oil, right? So it takes time, it takes effort, but slowly but surely, you know, you'll build it up, and then you'll have a lot more sustainable of a page in a business and good data than anyone else. So
I'm getting more traction on. Sorry, I'm getting more traction on Instagram, and so I think if I link the two, that could help. Just to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. It will.
So basically,
it certainly will.
Alex, what Mike teaches is he has a little section called 15-minute daily empire builders. So he's very much, in that category of like, look, this takes time, but it doesn't take a whole lot of time every day. You just have to do these consistent things.
Yep.
And it will help
exactly.
you, build that. So to give you some kind of reference of the type of group we're all in, it's with a guy who is very, very above the board and not like this is overnight millions of dollars overnight. Yeah, absolutely.
So, but I also say that to you guys just because too, is like, you'll probably see Facebook ads where people are saying like, oh, this campaign I did this, and this, you know what I mean? And it's like, at the end of the day, what I would say is like, for you, Aaron, figure out what your actual high leverage point is on Facebook and build up to getting your pixel and your algorithm churning into that. And what I mean by that is like, opt-ins are good for your business, but there are a lot of, and this is one thing that I ran into directly with my experiences, like those are good for your business, but that doesn't pay your bills, right? At the end of the day, you want purchasers. So if you're selling something or your big leverage point is if you're looking for copy clients to get them on a call, set the pixel and the conversion campaign up to give you what you actually want. So because otherwise and Facebook will find those people, which is crazy, but it will. Because the thing to understand too, that a lot of people don't know is like, all these big data companies are in bed together. So they're sharing everybody's data, whether people are talking about it or not. So Facebook, Amazon, all these people, they cross-pollinate all the data. So they understand way more about people than we even know they do yet. And every day that goes by, these algorithms and this AI is getting smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter because the more data it gets, the smarter it gets. So
it's just, it's been the same thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, finish.
No, I was just going to say, that's my biggest advice for you is, find that big leverage point, which is usually a sale. But if you have to make a phone call, if it's like client type thing, then that's what I would go for on my outcome on the, at least on the conversion side, and then just run, I like running engagement as well, because with engagement, you can get more, you can invite people to like your page and, that builds all of that stuff. And
I think I'm going to start with engagement and then go for the sale because I'm building course right now. And that's what I'm going to be driving. So
yeah.
All that data,
and the fun thing,
I was just going to say, all that data is the same way as it's been in direct mail with mailing lists, like all the big direct response companies, Boardroom and Rodale and Phillips Publishing and Healthy Directions, they've all, they all buy each other's customer lists, and they're less. It's far inferior to Facebook because Facebook they know so much about you. Whereas mailing lists is aged. It's all demographic stuff, whereas Facebook has a lot of psychographic stuff. But data sharing is nothing new, and it's certainly nothing that the internet created. It's been happening, as long as direct mail has been going out too. So just something to keep in mind.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we kind of talked about this, but are there any resources where the average Joe can go to keep up to date on Facebook ad policies, like a Cliff Notes for Facebook ad compliance, and then any software services for testing compliance?
I just use their advertising policies. And then I have like the curse of knowledge where I'm in, I would say get in with groups of people that you can, that are doing it, that are in the trenches, talk to them, because this is something that's changing. I would not rely on, I don't rely on and would not rely on any sort of like service where I can put in my ad copy and it says yes or no, just because in my experience it is so dynamic. So that said, I don't have that resource. And the thing that I always come back to is, their advertising policies that they put here. And also just talking to other people who are, in the game, I guess you could say.
Yeah, in the game currently.
Currently, yes,
because of how
very
quick
important.
this stuff changes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Does anybody have any other questions? It's totally open discussion at this point. Cool. Sounds good. We hit it an hour. Guys, I hope everybody got something out of this. I hope it was really useful to you. And
thanks, Alex. It was really helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if you guys have a question that comes up, like, I'm sure Jared's cool with it, but if you reach out to Jared, he can let me know, or put you in touch with me or whatever. If you have, something that comes up or whatever, I'm always happy to help out when I can. And if I have the time to sort of do so. So I appreciate you guys for being here and being interested in Facebook and compliance, because it's not necessarily a fun subject.
Nope. I got a lot of notes. I got a whole page of notes.
Me too.
good stuff.
Awesome.
Well,
Cool.
Everybody, have a great day. Thank you again, Alex, for joining me here. And the link for this will be going up in the group sometime in the next short while for replay. And otherwise, I will see you all in the group.
Cool. Thanks, Jared.
Thanks,
Alex.
Jared.
Awesome. Yeah,
See you
thanks guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
All right.